Hello and welcome to Kurly Meets, and today I have the amazing Bhavik Parmar, who is the director of Birmingham Arts School, which offers lots of opportunities for teachers and schools for young people to be enriched by the arts. So Bhavik,
That's absolutely spot on.
It's a real pleasure for us to have you here today. And I understand the Birmingham Arts School is part of Birmingham Education Partnership.
Yes, so Birmingham Education Partnership looks after sort of a range of things in the school, in the city, including school improvement, mental health and well-being, and they also have an art strand, which Birmingham Arts School is essentially. And the work that we do is all about connecting arts organisations and artists with schools across the city, with this sort of ultimate aim of making sure that young people are getting high quality arts education.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. And when it comes to the Birmingham Arts School, what can you just give a brief overview of what that offers?
Yeah, so Birmingham Arts School has sort of six key strands. It involves teacher networks, where we've got a primary teacher network which meets 3 times a year, and we have 3 secondary networks. Our secondary networks are in dance, drama, and visual art. Our dance one is led by Fabric. Our drama one is led by the Birmingham Repertory Theatre, and our visual art one is led by Joe Baptiste, who's Director of Arts and Community Arts at Bishop Challoner Catholic College.
Amazing.
And those primary arts link sessions, they meet 3 times a year, but again, they have that purpose of enriching teachers with the opportunity of connecting them with arts organisations that they could work with to build their sort of activity in their schools, but also a chance for those teachers to get a glimpse of feeling confident in using that practice in their school. So not just like, here's someone who you can connect to, but let's say you don't have the finances to work with that arts organisation. Here are still creative ways that you could still embed dance, drama, visual art, music, poetry into the work that you do. So we've got a range of sessions across the year. We've got a session coming up in October that's all about fundraising for school projects. We've got a session in January, which is also going to have yourselves. And that session will be focused on embedding drama into a classroom, embedding sort of storytelling and literature into a classroom, but also embedding poetry into the ways that you sort of teach and look at curriculum topics. And our last session of the year is all about being digitally innovative and being confident in using digital technology. So I feel like sometimes teachers shy away from it, or they feel like they haven't got the kit or loads of camera equipment and all that, and podcast equipment to make things happen. But some things are as simple as painting a wall in your school to have a green screen, allowing young people to record things on iPads, and thinking about various ways that you can connect that stuff together, even if it's on Google Drive as an example. But making teachers feel confident in being able to use that as a way of not just delivering their lesson, but also being able to plan in a way where they can stand in front of the screen and click through things that show various outlets, various video, sounds, activities for them to roll with. It even means there's ways where we're really excited, because we'll also have in that same session, for the digital session, we'll have a presentation by Sungut Studios. They specialize in, again, using digital technology. They've got their own studio over there. They create podcasts as well, and a lot of the work that they do is all about how can you talk about responsible media and how young people perceive media right now, the huge influence they have around it. What kind of protocols can schools put in place to help support their young people? We talk about cyberbullying and all that sort of stuff, but there's also the positive sides of being able to use social media, the positive sides of people having a space to be creative. And what Sungut Studios does is they show you ways in which that can happen. We'll also have on that same day a presentation by Birmingham Open Media, and they do a lot of amazing VR work with young people, where you could create a piece of artwork, but then how do you digitally bring it up on a screen, and how do you bring that artwork to life through VR? And also at that same session, we're going to have CNT, Collar and Tie, Computers and Theatre. Their company is all about how do you set up digital lesson plans, which are not just pause play videos. They're very much where you can have a video that teaches you about something, and then it lets you go, where do you want to go next? And that video takes you to another place. And it's a tool that teachers can use to create their own content, but it's also a tool where there's a platform of hundreds of videos of hundreds of different curriculum outcomes, which again support schools' needs as well. So yeah, everything that we do is about saying there are so many opportunities out there. We want to make sure you make use of them, but we also want you to feel confident in
For sure.
wanting to be creative in your practice,
For
especially
sure.
as we move towards a Labour government who will definitely want a more balanced curriculum, even if they haven't said exactly what that looks like now. Teachers should be spending this year taking those next steps towards it.
Yeah, because at least they can inform what that policy might be, I suppose, with
Absolutely.
that. Yeah, and looking at new ways of working, really important. Collaborative learning and get Google Slides enables that.
Absolutely.
You know, all that collaborative networking that can take place online as well. Wow, yeah, fascinating, because we look at how young people consume media, and they're all very native to these platforms and on social media, and unless we meet them halfway, it kind of feels like we're doing them a disservice, because we can't get those messages across in ways that they're used to consuming.
It's, I think, if young people want to look at phones so badly, well, instead of like shouting at them for wanting to be creative in different ways, like how do you utilize that interest of like,
Absolutely.
I want to make TikToks and I want to do this and I want to do that? Well, how can you use that as a platform to create something that links back to your curriculum?
For sure. And within that, then you can look at safeguarding and online and anti-bullying and all those things as well, you know. So that can be part of, you know, the pupil voice,
absolutely,
student council, all those things, all those factors could be put into place. So yeah, it's fascinating.
So, we've got those teacher networks. We've got a CPD program where 8 arts organisations deliver activities in their venue, as well as providing lunch, as well as providing resources that teachers can take away.
Amazing.
We've got our big Arts in Schools conference coming up on Friday, the 25th of October at the Rep. We have got Casey Bailey, Poet Laureate, who's going to be a keynote speaker. We've got Richard Russell, who's Chief Operating Officer at Arts Council England. He'll be talking about the relationship between Arts Council and the Labour Party, Arts Council, and sort of ways that schools can approach funding, but ways that schools can embed Arts Award and Arts Mark into their school provision. We've got a whole panel of people talking in the afternoon. We've got 9 workshops by 9 different arts organisations. We'll sort of show you links and stuff over here. They're going to magically appear of how you can book on and see everything. And if you go into our social media, there's a trailer for last year's conference. So we had 110 teachers book on and attend the event.
Wow.
And it was really, really exciting. But again, last year was all about, we want you to embed arts in your school. This year, everything Birmingham Arts School is doing, the theme is being a change maker. How do you go above and beyond bringing an artist or an arts organization in for a fun interaction, but it's kind of tokenistic because it doesn't do anything more than what it does on that day. What we want teachers to think about is, if you bring in a creative, how do you embed that in your practice? How do you get your teachers to know that you can teach in creative ways? How do you get your young people to know that here's another way that helps them learn the same topic that they need to learn in school? That's what, like, a lot of the work this year and my motivation is how do I take my passion for arts education and embed that into teachers and their sort of willingness and their confidence to also do the same.
Amazing. Wow, what a fantastic overview. I think that puts a lot into context as to what you're doing. So when you mentioned about passion there, if we just rewind a little bit, your origin story, how did you get involved in the arts, I guess? What inspired you, or how did you get involved?
So
I just go back a little.
Most of my career is based in the theatre industry, but going all the way back, I was always someone who loved like performing in school assemblies and everything. And I feel like I've always been surrounded by teachers who have wanted to support me. And I think that's so important because teachers, especially when they make school productions, it's usually someone who isn't a director or comes from a theatre background or anything like that. It's usually someone who just has a passion and an interest in putting something creative together for friends, family, parents to see. So the fact that like I had the opportunity throughout my school life to take part in these types of after school sessions or these in school assemblies, and then as I moved towards secondary school, I wanted to do drama. I wanted to do GCSE drama and A-level drama. And again, my parents were supportive in me taking up those choices. They weren't supportive in a career in the arts, and we'll get to that, but they were always happy with me having the opportunities to grow my confidence. And I think a lot of like parents want the same thing. They want their kids to be confident. They want their kids to speak clearly and fluently and passionately about whatever they have interest in. They want to be able to communicate with their young people, and that's what the arts always does. They give young people a chance to express themselves and feel confident in the thing that they're really good at. And I feel like that's another thing that I can branch off to. But that thing of, if you give a young person what they need to thrive, they will thrive. But if you take it away and you strip away and you force them to learn things in a certain manner, there's always a chance that they go, this is not for me. And that's where behavior issues can come into play. That's where disengagement happens.
sure.
That's where you as
Disaffectiveness.
teachers go, oh, I've tried all these methods to get them to learn the same thing. They're just not engaging with it. And then you fall into that pressure of where you're having to put young people into sets and where they fit in, because
And then you
their
label
intellect doesn't match. But sometimes it's like, well, the intellect might be absolutely there. They just need a different way to tap into it. So yeah, I love performing, loved it so much, got involved with all school related performances. I had drama in my secondary school through year 7 all the way to year 9. Did it as a GCSE topic, and when I did that, I was like, I really love making the sort of devising unit of making stories and being a storyteller. I love doing that. Got to do that and got to make performances. Went to A level, and there was only 3 people on my course, and that's because there weren't a lot of people sort of taking up arts related subjects anyway. But also the 2 people that were in my A level course were in it because they couldn't get into the other subjects they wanted. So the only person who wanted to be there was me. And it was when I was in A levels that I realized that like I genuinely want to have a career in the arts. And that's where those conversations came in of like me approaching friends and family and saying, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm interested in, this is what I've got a passion in. And it was almost always an instant shutdown.
Really? Not very well received
at all. It was a case of like my family always wanted me to go down like the economics or the business route or anything like that, and I was always good at those subjects. I was in like top set for everything, and I always tried to focus and do well in all areas. But if I had to write a personal statement when it came to universities, I don't know if you still have to do this now, but you have to write a personal statement to say why you want to go to that uni, why you want to study that subject. It got to the point where I had to choose between writing something for a university to learn to do an economics course or to do a theatre related one. And unfortunately, as much as I enjoyed the subject of economics and business, it was never a case of like, I really want to do this. There wasn't much I could write. There wasn't anything that flowed naturally. When you talk about my want and interest to perform and to create, I could write for days. I could keep going. I had so many things that I'd done, from like monologue competitions to connecting with the Curve Theatre in Leicester and performing over there, to being able to watch performances through my life in school and being able to see live theatre. Like it made me want to either be on that stage or have that platform to create something. So yeah, I spoke to my parents. They were very much against it. I spoke to my older cousins who all said, your parents are right, you need to keep this as a hobby. You'll never find a wife, you'll never get a job, you'll never be able to put a roof over your head, you won't be able to succeed, there's no money in the arts. And there's all these barriers that are kind of being put on me as to why I shouldn't do it. But I'm always someone who's kind of said, well, unless you really, really want something, you aren't going to be successful in it. And that's irrespective of career. You could go ahead, do a business degree, but if you don't have the want, the desire, the passion, the drive, resilience, then you aren't going to be successful. You got a first degree, and then what? Who have you connected with? Which organizations have you really built your work experience and thought, yes, I can connect with that organization and I want to grow and I want to succeed and I'm going to go out and start my own business. Like there aren't many people who will take that step. And there are some people who will take 9-to-5 jobs in these sort of financial or scientific job roles, but then they don't enjoy what they do. And part of me is always like, well, if I love what I do and I'm good at what I do and I have the drive to succeed, as long as you have those 3 things, then it doesn't matter what path you take, you will succeed and you will get there. And it will be hard, but you have to almost be your own biggest fan.
For sure.
I feel like that's what I have to do.
Well done.
I tried to convince my parents. It didn't work. I got my parents to sit with my drama teacher and I said, because I was the only person I could go to be on my side. And my drama teacher was like, oh, it's amazing. Like he'll do really well. He has got the drive and the passion and he's really good. Skills. Yeah, like, all of those things. And my dad literally just like interrupted the teacher halfway through and said like, that's all great that he's doing well in school, but this is not what we want him to do.
Wow.
And the thing is, for years there was this like resentment and this hate towards like my parents, but I also, as I got older, understood that they migrated from India, they didn't do degrees, they came to the UK and were doing jobs in factories that were very, very like they were getting paid less than the minimum wage or what they legally should be being paid. And their first house was like a council flat, so they went through a severe level of poverty. So for them, it was like all of their hopes were in their children. Their hopes were they want their children to succeed.
So much self-sacrifice. Yeah,
exactly.
sure.
And it's like in their heads, if we weren't doing what others were doing, what they'd value as higher level courses, they felt like I was making a mistake. And there's those two things of like their own reflection of like what they might feel like they've either done wrong or right as a parent, but also their hope to kind of go, no, if you want to succeed, you need to do this. I'm telling you as a parent, this is the right thing you should be doing. So yeah, there's a whole mental struggle, and you're at this point in my life, I'm 16 years old. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do in my life. I've got this pressure from my family. I haven't got a support mechanism.
Conflicting messages.
Yeah, and it's like it's a really, really tough thing. And who do you go to? I don't have any at this point in my life. What South Asian role models were out there? Who else is doing theatre? Who can I say, well, this person's doing it and this
as an example of
And it's like I could bring up the Bollywood industry, but I wasn't going to move to India to be an actor or anything like that. I didn't have someone else who was doing something that was
tangible.
Yeah, exactly.
Close, that you
I couldn't have someone that was in Leicester that I could say, come and speak to my parents. There was no outlet for me. So yeah, it emotionally was a big drain on me, but I was also like, if anyone's gonna support me, it's me. I have to be my own biggest fan. So I chose to pick up a 5th A level. It was called Extended Project, and you get marked on putting a project together, its end product and the evaluation of it. So I chose to write, produce, act and direct my own story with a cast of 30 people from year 7 to A-level students. It was all short stories about teenagers' lives, everything from like peer pressure to exam stress to relationships to bullying. And one of the stories was about how Bhavik wants to do drama at university, but his parents won't let him. So I played myself, and I had other people playing the role of like my uncles and my aunties and my parents. And my sort of teacher at the time who led on that course was like, yeah, you can make tickets, you can sell tickets, it's all fine. What he didn't tell me was anything about health and safety and how many people you can fit into a room. You could fit 30 people into the drama studio. I sold 100 tickets. I was allowed to keep the money and everything. But at this point, it was too late for the teacher to do anything. He clearly wasn't sort of focused in on what I kind of can't do. So he came in and he started with, Bhavik has put all of this together. And I think he said that in 2 ways. One, because he was proud that I made it happen, but probably also of, anything goes wrong,
liability.
Blame him. This is his fault. He did not consult. But yeah, I put on the show, and it's on YouTube as well. It's called Bhavik Parmar's Tomorrow May Never Come, and again, it's so old. We could put a link up on there. I might be a bit embarrassed about it going up there, but it was the sort of starting point where I realized like this is what I want to do. I want to create. I don't want to just act. I want to direct. I want to make theatre and performances and work that matters, not just to the people who are watching a show, but to the people who are in it too. Like it's something that we all care about. So yeah, my parents came to see it. They cried their eyes out. It's never nice to make your own parents cry, but at that point they were like, okay, if you really want to do it. We've done everything we can to try and put you onto the right path.
Did they cry for the right reasons, do you feel? Yeah,
I feel like they cried because they kind of saw how much it meant to me, and how much like the staff and the other students in the school, like my friends, had supported me to make that show happen. So some of them were like my friends. I even had my brother play a character in the story as well. So he's 5 years younger. So at the time he was in year 7. So yeah, like it was just nice to make that happen. And so they said yes. They said, go ahead. You probably won't get a job, probably won't get anywhere, but if this is what you really want to do, then do it. And at that point, I was looking into university courses, and I came across a course that I'd never heard of, which was Applied Theatre, which is essentially using drama in an educational community setting, or how I'd like to call it, using drama to change the world. And did the course. In my first year of the course, I got a freelance youth theatre assistant director job, and I was making more money in a week than my dad was making in a month. And he was still like, yes, but it's not consistent, you can't live like that. Like the freelance life is not the life that you should be living. Like how are you going to pay bills, all this sort of stuff. So there's always the constant barriers.
Fear, yeah. There's a great acronym for fear: false evidence appearing real.
Yeah,
It seems like your dad had a good big dose of that.
yeah, he did.
But
Absolutely.
but understandably,
Yeah,
it came out of love, no doubt.
absolutely. And that's
Wanting the best for you.
and that's the thing.
But
Like when you're trying to say, look, I've done this, there was still the resilience. Like all you're waiting for is a yeah, I'm proud of you. And eventually it gets there. I'll get to that point, but there was that. And then in my third year of uni, I was like, you know what? I never want to be classed as unemployed ever. So I started my own children's entertainment company. It was kids' birthday parties. They were drama themed. A parent could say, I want a Robin Hood themed party, whatever. And every game, every exercise, it was all themed around that. And my sort of USP, because I knew at the point, this is where the use of doing well in other aspects of school come into place, where I was good at maths, I was good at like business and economics. I was like, well, my business needs a USP. What can I do that's different? So I brought in a shadow screen. So it's literally a piece of calico material around a black frame. And I tell a story and kids will go behind the screen. There's a floodlight and they would tell stories of shadows. And that was our sort of like way to capture audiences of how we're different from other companies. And I say we, and it's basically me running the company. I did that, and it was all pocket money. It was never meant to be like the business I sort of lead on, but I was essentially doing an hour and a half party for like 160, 170 pounds at the time. And it was something parents wanted, and it was bespoke. And again, it was like every couple of weekends I had another gig going, and it was just through posting on Facebook Marketplace and stuff like that. So yeah, I had that going. But the day that I finished uni, I literally had a job offer with a company called The Challenge, NCS. They do loads of sort of social action campaigns, but they've got like a drama leader project. So yeah, I literally had that the day that I finished. A couple of weeks after that, I got offered youth theatre director at Lakeside Arts Centre in Nottingham. A couple of weeks after that, got offered the role of young company assistant director at the Tricycle Theatre in London, which is now called the Kiln Theatre. And I was literally moving up and down, like from Nottingham to London to Leicester, these birthday parties or wherever they needed to be. The NCS job was like in Birmingham, Coventry, but I was never unemployed, and I had my own company as well. And again, that was consistent income. But even during that period of time between graduating in July and December, so a 6-month period, it was constantly from like my parents of, oh, I know a plumber who's looking for something, he earns so much more money here. I know an electrician who's looking for someone to support him. So like at this point, even though I was getting work, for my parents, it was that consistent worry of like, it's not full-time work. It's not going to be something that's going to last very long. That worry was always there. And it was 6 months after I graduated where a job came up at Birmingham Repertory Theatre as a drama practitioner, full-time. I got offered the job on my way home. And I remember as I got offered the job, I said back to Steve Ball, who was the previous director of Birmingham Arts School, who was at the time was director of learning and participation at the Rep. And I said to him, well, I'm still doing this job in Nottingham and I'm still doing this job in London as well. And it's just for the short period of like a year, I say short, for the next academic year, I really would like to finish those jobs because I feel like I'm someone who, if I start something, I want to finish something. And there were shows I was directing, so I didn't want to leave them halfway. I don't want to leave the young people. And I said, can I work 4 days a week up until June? And then after that, I can work the full 5. Amazing. He paused. And in that moment, I was like, finally got a full-time job offer. I can finally put all this stuff with my parents to rest. And now technically put myself in a position where I could lose it straight away. Steve at the time turned around and said, yeah, that's absolutely fine. Came home, knocked the doors down and said, here you go, Mum and Dad. Full-time job. They've been proud ever since.
Wow.
And after that, the whole thing of like trying to find a job and trying to find something full-time, those worries went, and I thought like I'm at the top of the hill and I'm where I want to be, and that's all fine. And then there was something that happened at uni which I kind of had suppressed, and then it kind of came back, and it was a case of someone said Bavik's probably only on this course because he's the token Asian and hits what the university needs to tick their boxes. And then the lecturer at the time didn't know how to handle that. And I feel like there's so much more EDI training now in our world than there was 10, 15 years ago. Sure. But at the time, the lecturer did nothing, didn't say anything. I didn't approach them, and I just kind of suppressed it and left it. And then when I got the job at the Rep, I'd overheard another colleague years ago who then said, oh, Bavik's probably got the job because, again, the rep needs to be more diverse. And
Ticking the box. Yeah,
I was like, it was a case of I knew in my heart that wasn't the case,
of course.
but it became a thing of like, okay, so I've spent all this time in my life having to prove to people that I will get a job in the arts. Now I have to prove to people that I'm good at the job and I'm here not because of how I look.
Yeah, not
And
nepotism
it's
or
like
nothing
a
like that.
whole different way to enter the industry and think,
Mm.
what's going on? How do I make an impact? And yeah, I've been at the rep was at the rep, I have to say now, for 9.5 years.
Wow.
I was a drama practitioner for about 3 or 4 years, then got
Amazing.
promoted to a senior practitioner, had responsibility of doing like wraparound projects in the theatre and hosting open mic nights and workshops that link alongside shows. And then Steve Ball at the time, he left to go on to do another job, and his role came up as head of education, and I became head of education at the rep. I did that for another 3-ish years, and then the role with Birmingham Arts School as a secondment to be the deputy director came up. So in the last year, I've been juggling those two jobs part-time on both of them, but still trying to make sure that I'm doing my absolute best in both those roles.
Sure.
And then Steve has retired, but Steve will probably agree that he will, there's no retirement for him. He's sitting on several boards. He's always going to be doing other projects.
Brilliant.
He's a man who's absolutely inspiring in the industry. But he's retired. His role came up as director of Birmingham Arts School. And here I am now. So I left the rep in the middle of August. I'm in a full-time job, but it's also a case of Birmingham Arts School used to be funded by Esme Fairbairn and Arts Connect. That funding period has come to an end. So we're now looking at a whole new model of funding where arts organisations like Memorhyme and another 30 arts organisations are paying membership fees and contributing because they believe in the way that we can connect and support schools and help those arts organisations.
Ecosystem.
And help those organisations also make sure they've got strong cultural learning offers that meet the needs of schools as well. So we've got cultural memberships. We're approaching, and I say we because Birmingham Arts School is part of Birmingham Education Partnership. We're approaching charities and organisations to help support core costs. We're approaching corporates and businesses to say, can you sponsor any Birmingham Arts School activity? But of course, it's also a case of now having to move to a model where all of our activity, which may for some teachers be seen as free but was always funded, those networks are now coming at a ticketed cost.
Sure.
But I've also made sure that if I put anything at a cost this year, the value goes up.
For sure.
And every sort of teacher network will have examples come in and presenting. Every session will have other arts organisations presenting. Every session will make sure that teachers walk away with something physical to take away that will really support the work that they do.
Massive disproportionate between value and cost.
Exactly. So it's that thing of like, yes, I know we're charging schools, but we're bigger and better than ever before. And even if there's only one person running the team at the moment, just know that I've got, because of the story that I've already said, that the passion is always going to be there, the drive is going to be there. I was asked the other day, they're like, so who's Birmingham Arts School being funded by right now? And I was like, we're not. I was like, we're being housed by Birmingham Education Partnership, who are saying, yes, we want to keep Birmingham Arts School, but also have the expectation of me to cover all my costs, to grow Birmingham Arts School, to cover both the core costs, but any event costs I might have as well. So it's my responsibility. So in terms of sustainability, unless I can get it to thrive, it will eventually get to a point where they say, we can't keep you if you can't keep the finances in balance, essentially.
At the moment, how many teachers do you have subscribed to your newsletters and or part of?
So in terms of we engage with all 400 schools in the city, and we actively try and sort of approach those schools who are not as engaged with the arts. They might have their own art stuff in the school, but are schools there are some schools in the city who just haven't had any partnerships, or may not understand the value of having an arts partnership, or may not understand how you can embed arts to teach current existing curriculum. So we engage all 400 schools in the city, but we have over 2,000 teachers signed up to the Birmingham Education Hub, which is a free platform where you as schools and as teachers can see arts offers being posted by our cultural learning providers in the city. It's the hub also gives you all of the training opportunities, like the CPD sessions will run, like the teacher networks. Everything can be booked through the hub. We have got a BAS package that's only for this month, and we've got 8 schools already signed up to it. The BAS package is essentially a chance for you to save money on the cost for Birmingham Arts School events by booking things in advance, and by booking onto the package, you'll have access to 4 of our 8 CPD sessions. If you get the primary version, you get all of our primary sessions. If you get the secondary version, you get to choose which secondary network you want your teachers to attend. Or if you go with the secondary plus, you can have your teachers attend all the dance network sessions, all the visual art network sessions, and all of the drama network sessions. And on top of that, we also provide something that's different from the packages, which is teacher consultancy, where teachers can have a chat with me and I get a full understanding of their needs as a school, their budget as a school, what interests they have, what the makeup of their young people is, how they've used partnerships in the past where it has worked or hasn't worked. And then I will do the legwork of connecting with an arts organization, saying such and such school wants this type of provision, is interested in this type of work, this is what they can afford, can you do anything? If yes, what could that be?
Because every school has different bespoke needs. So
exactly.
if you're the guy that can help prescribe a solution to specific problems, that's amazing.
And it's that thing of some schools will say, we don't have a huge budget to have a year-long partnership, but we've got this festival that we do in the school every year and we need music artists for this. Amazing. Or they might say, we've got we actually want to have a relook at how we teach English and PSHE and other curriculum topics. We want to know how we can use another art form to help support that and enhance our teaching. Amazing. Some schools may have applied for funding and therefore have got the money but just don't know who to go to and don't know how to use it in a way that is the best possible way of making sure that there's ongoing provision across as many young people in their school as possible. So that's where we come in to support them through consultancy sessions. And once that happens, once we've connected the arts organisation, the school, the relationships between them, Birmingham Arts School doesn't take a cut out of the arts organisation's money or anything like that. The teachers pay for my time in the first instance, and after that, the relationship building and the sort of continual development of that relationship is between the school and the arts organisation.
Amazing, amazing. Bav, we could talk for ages, it seems like, but I think that's been a great summary, really, of touching on who you are, how you got into this sector, and what Birmingham Arts School offers. Just on the closing part, any hints or tips or that you've received during the course of your trials and tribulations that maybe they could be shared? What was probably the most valuable bit of advice you received on your journey?
And I think the most valuable bit of advice that I've received is, in the arts, people would say there's no guarantee of jobs and there's no guarantee of security. And even right now, me taking on a full-time role at Birmingham Arts School, knowing that unless I can kind of get all the funding to make it thrive, I could lose my job. That's across the arts industry. You have to be able to put your own energy and your own passion and your own confidence in making something work. As long as you don't have time to worry about it. I feel like people spend time worrying about ifs and buts, but if you want something to work, you have to persevere at it. You can't wait for it.
For sure.
You can't worry about how sort of likely something is to succeed. You have to worry about what you need to do now to make the most successful thing. That will be my advice, and it's probably an amalgamation of the advice that I've heard over the years. And that's through having conversations with like-minded people like yourselves who want to provide that space for both people to talk and go, we want to do something. I'm really excited about having Memorhyme as part of our cultural partners, because we cover dance, we cover drama, we cover music, we cover visual art, but literature is also an art form. Poetry is also an art form. Young people can say the same thing, but they prefer to say it as a rap rather than write an essay about it. If there are ways in which schools across the city can take in exam sort of provision or other creative methods of answering an essay question, and you were able to kind of turn it into a piece of poetry or a piece of art, like I think what that does, it gives young people a way to go, yes, I can tick all the boxes you want in this criteria, but I got to do it my way. I got to do it in a way where I felt confident writing it. I got to do it in a way where I got to research something and put my effort of taking that research, but instead of just writing it back into a Word document, I'm paraphrasing, which is what people do. Go, well, if you're going to take that and you're going to paraphrase it anyway, turn it into a more creative way. Put your spin on it, put your voice on it, put your energy into it. And I feel like through all the videos that I've seen about your work and through the work that you do, I feel like you will bring that into the Birmingham Arts School programs. I'm really thankful for even having the opportunity to speak with you and be here with you, Kurly.
Oh no, like you said, it's like mines, and I think there's a massive need out there, a massive demand, and if we can service that demand and help to safeguard young people by helping to express themselves in a positive way rather than, like you say, keeping it contained and it coming out another way. The more arts provision we can offer, the safe expression of emotions for as many young people as possible, I think that's a great community service, I think.
Can I ask a question back to you to end the podcast instead of me?
Please.
The question back to you is, what drives you? What makes you want to run Memorhyme? What makes you want to provide arts education in the city?
I think arts education at the moment is not for, it's so education as a whole at the moment, doesn't suit everybody. I also work in a pupil referral unit, so we get to see how young people, probably not of any personal fault of their own, so to speak, but just the environment that they may have grew up in. Lots of issues going on at home, for instance, and school isn't the major priority for them. And the way that school address education just doesn't suit their model of learning. So invariably, they show challenging behaviour, they get excluded. And it's about reaching those who look at learning in a different way, who just need a different approach. And arts is a great vehicle to do that. And I feel myself, like I've got my own personal stories, I guess, of growing up and facing different labels myself, growing up and having to endure different things. And if I can help young people to get through those tough times by writing how they're feeling, better to communicate what they're feeling than for it to come out in anger and all the different consequences of that. So yeah, for me, that's really important. So that's my take on it at the moment. So yes, it's providing alternative pathways to learning.
Exactly, and I think that's really important to say the whole alternative pathways to learning, because sometimes people think, well, they've got other theatres and music venues, etc. They can do it after school, or we could set up a little club that they can buy tickets to. But the thing is, if they don't see it in their school life, they won't be it in the future. They won't see it as relevant if the school doesn't see it as relevant. Sure. If they don't see their teachers go, yep, we're going to do something creative, they won't go, cool. Like the only role model I have at the moment in my school life is my teacher. If they're not telling me to do it, they don't see it as important, then why do I need to see it as important?
Yes, indeed.
So it's that thing of like knowing that people have their own lives, they've got their own issue, their own sort of family matters or issues that they're dealing with, where doing something recreational outside of school just isn't possible for them. When we talk about arts education, we literally mean during the school day.
For sure,
it's part of the school's method of teaching and learning and growing a young person.
It's part of catharsis as well, that process of being able to express yourself. But yeah, it's very important, very important. If you want young people to do well in school, we need to be able to help them to manage how they're feeling, for them to engage, I think. And I think the arts are an amazing vehicle to do that, playing to their young people's strengths. Some of them like dancing, some of them are quite loud. Why not channel that into them being a public speaker, where they can make an earning, a living out of that, do you know what I mean? And put them skills to good use. Art as well, so many different ways I think we could look at channeling natural talent and help to enrich the curriculum at the same time. Bav, it's been a huge pleasure helping Prudence Express and Safeguard like armour. Today's guest for Kurly Meets has been Bhavik Parmar.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure.